Welcome to your reset with Christiane Piano, where the purpose is to support you in releasing all that you are not, so the truth of who you really are can emerge. This is accomplished through working with the body-mind from an ontological perspective. We use various modalities to support you in supporting yourself exactly where you are, so that you may return to an experience of wholeness and ease, moment by moment. Deep reflection is one of the greatest tools through which to do this. To take a moment, to pause, assess, reflect, and literally and figuratively reset, come back to center, and move back into your one and precious life with increased clarity and purpose. Hello and welcome. I am Christiane Piano, and this week's episode explores a fundamental aspect of our human experience: resistance. As human beings, we all navigate life with distinct operating modes, often swinging between the poles of resistance and resignation. Today, our focus is on resistance, how it subtly and sometimes not so subtly manifests in our daily lives, both within our thoughts and throughout our bodies. My intention is to inspire you to cultivate a curious and even friendly relationship with it when it arises, to see it not merely as an obstacle to avoid, but as fertile ground for your growth, prompting deeper self-inquiry, and ultimately leading to greater freedom. Because when we unconsciously allow resistance to take hold, it frequently prevents us from moving forward, learning, unlearning, and truly evolving. So what exactly is resistance? In my work with the body-mind as a unified whole, I've found it profoundly helpful to consider both the body and mind, while always remembering their inherent and inseparable connection. Resistance often emerges from our relationship to reality, the way we perceive and interact with our inner and outer landscapes. This relationship is built over time, based on our unique experiences. Often, we aren't even consciously aware of how this relationship shapes our responses and our reactions. A common indicator of our relationship to reality can be heard in phrases like, "Why does this keep happening to me?" This thought suggests a sense of separation. I am in here, and life is out there, with external events happening to us. One of the initial shifts in perspective when working with the body-mind from an ontological perspective is recognizing that we are not separate from the whole. We are active participants in our experience of reality. Just as the body and mind are distinct, yet not separate, so too are we connected to the larger flow of life. Resistance often arises when our experience of reality clashes with the picture we hold in our mind of how we think things should be. Something is that we think should not be, or something is not as we think it should be. This discrepancy creates what I often refer to as a knot, N-O-T, in the mind. A mental rejection, if you will, of what is. This mental knot is not just a thought. It simultaneously manifests in the body as a knot, K-N-O-T, a feeling of tension, constriction, or stuckness. It's a very common human tendency when we encounter this knot of resistance, whether in body or mind, to try and talk ourselves out of it, or to rationalize it away. We might try to convince ourselves or others that our feelings aren't valid, or that the situation isn't really that bad. However, because resistance operates on a deeper, more visceral level, engaging our emotions and our nervous system, this purely intellectual approach is often futile. The level at which we experience the knot is often not accessible to pure logic and verbal persuasion. As the Boston-based psychiatrist, author, researcher, and educator Bessel van der Kolk so eloquently states, no matter how much insight and understanding we develop, the rational brain is basically impotent to talk the emotional brain out of its own reality. This underscores why simply trying to reason our way out of resistance rarely works. As Alan Watts wisely said, of course you can't force your mind to be silent. That would be like trying to smooth ripples in water with a flat iron. Water becomes clear and calm only when left alone. So I invite you to consider a moment right now where you sense resistance in your life. It could be something seemingly small, like putting off a task, or something more significant, like struggling with a relationship dynamic. Notice the associated thoughts. What should not be or should be? Then gently turn your attention inward and ask yourself, where do I feel this knot in my body? What is the quality of my breath? What emotions are present? What is my posture? This simple act of becoming aware of what is unfolding in your experience, an act of checking in with yourself, of bringing mindful attention to your embodied experience, is the crucial first step in understanding and getting to the root and ultimately shifting, or perhaps inviting a shift, to your relationship to resistance, rather than getting caught in mental arguments. It's vital to understand that the rational brain and the emotional centers of the brain don't always communicate directly or effectively when resistance is present. The body-mind is an incredibly complex and interconnected system, influenced by countless factors beyond conscious thought. And as we learn and grow and develop, self-regulation depends on having a friendly relationship with your body. Without it, you have to rely on external regulation. For example, medications, drugs like alcohol, constant reassurance, or compulsive compliance with the wishes of others. This highlights the profound importance of cultivating a positive and attuned relationship with our physical sensations as a foundation for managing and redirecting our inner states, including resistance. Becoming curious about these influences, our environment, our physical state, our emotional landscape, can empower us to invite gentle resets back to a more balanced and responsive state, bypassing the limitations of pure rationalization. Resistance is also a natural human response to the unknown, and personal growth by its very nature inherently involves stepping into unfamiliar territory. If we allow this knot of resistance to dominate our choices, and we get stuck in trying to think our way out of it, we risk becoming trapped in the comfort zone of repetitive patterns. ultimately leading to a sense of stagnation or even resignation. The key to cultivate the ability to become aware of resistance without judgment or suspending it when it is present, accepting it as a natural initial reaction, a signal from our system. Then, rather than engaging in a mental battle with the knot, we can mindfully shift our focus of the sensations of the knot in the body, grounding ourselves through simple practices like conscious breathing, gentle movement, or connecting with our physical sensations can help us to soften and release this physical manifestation of resistance. Often, by simply giving ourselves the space to be present with our embodied experience, the intensity of the knot lessens, allowing us to re-engage with a situation or task with more clarity and conscious awareness. This ongoing process of recognizing our relationship to reality and gently navigating the knot of resistance, understanding the limitations of purely intellectual solutions, is absolutely fundamental to sustained personal growth, development, and a more easeful way of living. It requires consistent practice, a deepening of self-awareness, and a genuine willingness to be an active and creative participant in shaping our lives, rather than being dictated by unconscious reactions and mental arguments. One of the profound currents we navigate as human beings is our inherent resistance to change. This resistance often stems from a perceived threat to our established relationship with reality. Whether it's adapting to new circumstances at work or embracing personal growth like prioritizing our well-being, we often experience a natural tendency to cling to the familiar and resist the disruption of the new. Understanding the multifaceted roots of this resistance can illuminate our path toward greater fluidity, acceptance, and ultimately growth. If you have yet to listen to the episode on the unknown, I highly suggest it, as it will prove extremely supportive. Key aspects to consider include the understandable fear of the unknown, the comforting yet sometimes limiting pull of the familiar, the vulnerability inherent in potential failure, the inertia that comes with the perceived effort of change, and even a lack of trust in those initiating the change. Gently and mindfully addressing these underlying factors through clear communication, fostering discernment, cultivating courage, connecting with intrinsic motivation, and building trust can significantly ease the knot of resistance, rather than trying to simply talk ourselves into acceptance. Drawing on the ancient wisdom of Zen awareness practice and the insightful RAIN method developed by teachers like Tara Brach, we find a gentle yet remarkably powerful and structured approach to navigate the often turbulent waters of resistance and our knots, moving beyond the limitations of purely intellectual engagement. RAIN invites us to recognize, gently acknowledge the thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations that are present in the moment without judgment or analysis. Simply name what you are experiencing, the knot, N-O-T, and the K-N-O-T, knot. Then allow. Simply let these feelings, thoughts, and sensations be, without trying to fix, suppress, or change them. Resisting our experience only tends to amplify its power, tightening the knot. Then investigate with curiosity and compassion. Inquire into the nature of these thoughts and feelings. What beliefs might be underlying the knot? Where do you feel the knot most intensely in your body? Approach yourself with gentle curiosity, as you would a dear friend. And then finally, non-identification, or nurture with self-compassion. Gently remind yourself that you have these feelings and thoughts, the knot, and the sensations of the knot. They are passing experiences, but they do not define your essence. Offer yourself kindness, understanding, and self-compassion in the midst of your experience, rather than berating yourself for feeling resistance. Procrastination, a common and often frustrating manifestation of underlying resistance and the knot, frequently stems from our unconscious attempts to avoid uncomfortable feelings associated with a particular task or situation. The RAIN practice provides a clear and accessible pathway to interrupt this cycle by consciously acknowledging and allowing these difficult feelings and the physical sensations of the knot, gently investigating their roots with self-compassion and remembering that we are not defined by them. This embodied approach helps us to unravel the often powerful grip of avoidance far more effectively than simply trying to reason our way into action. Ultimately, by cultivating the capacity to recognize our relationship to reality, mindfully navigate the knot of resistance, understanding the limitations of purely intellectual solutions, and deeply connecting with the innate wisdom of our integrated body-mind, we can gradually step out of limiting patterns of reaction and move towards a life lived with greater ease, resilience, and a profound sense of inner freedom. This week, as you become more aware of your knots of resistance, I'd love to hear about your experiences. You can connect with me and share your insights through the contact form on my website, christianepiano.com. Your questions and reflections and shares often inspire future episodes and offerings. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I do hope you found this episode insightful and supportive. Feel free to share it, like, follow, or subscribe. And until next time. If you are interested in working with me on any level of body-mind well-being, whether it be through individual body-mind maturation work sessions, perhaps participating in a series, individual privates, or through my video-on-demand services, if you have questions, if you would like to engage on any level, feel free to schedule a free 15-minute consult in the appointments section, www.christianepiano.com, or email me directly at growth@christianepiano.com.